Talking About Country, episode 3. Here with Chris Pottie, who, this is actually a three-peat. It's the third episode, third time he's been on a podcast that I've been with. Thank you for doing this.
Hey.
We're at Shangri-La Pottie here in Lawrencetown, Nova Scotia. For our American friends, you can find that easy. So you helped me out with this one because you get Chad Melcher, who was friggin' awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
We're working on a couple other ones, but we're going to talk about what you're up to. You sent me a song. Do we call him your boss, Jason?
Yeah, my buddy.
Your buddy.
My buddy.
So you
boss.
played with Jason Benoit, Canadian country star. You guys were down in Cuba a few months ago. So what's going on with this song? You let me have a listen. I don't have a copy, but you let me have a listen.
That's the new single coming out April 4. April 4. So it's kind of a 90s kind of throwback deal. We all kind of grew up listening to the 90s stuff. So 90s country, if you like that kind of stuff, that's... I think you'll dig it.
It's peppy. I heard it. So yourself, Jason, Peter James is on it?
Peter is on that one, yeah. Colton Kraft used to play with Minglewood piano. And Clint Newcomb, he was Billy Currington's guitar player.
Every time, I can't remember when somebody says who Clint play with, and you tell me that every time, and I always forget who it is.
Billy Currington, yeah.
So Cliff's another guy who lives up here that was down in Nashville.
From Nashville.
He is, right.
Yeah.
So we're stealing all your people.
That's right.
I don't know what to tell you. They will soon all be living up here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So April 4th, you said?
4th.
And then, so what are your plans for him? What's going to go on with Jason?
We got some stuff this summer opening for Brett Kissel in Truro. We got that gig and a couple other things, Bridgewater here and there and everywhere. Then I got some stuff with Josh Norad. Josh is a guy in New Brunswick. He's got a new single coming out actually that we just finished actually in my studio a little while ago. And a little bit of stuff with Melissa Marshall as well. So got the summer's filling up.
Right on.
Yeah.
And so anybody knows, this is where I get to do my drum tracks. I just did one for Bobby's sister a week ago. So you don't see it, but Chris has a full studio downstairs, full setup. I'm looking at his wife, 18 snare drums down there. She's really excited about that. How active is your studio? Because I know you wanted to do some stuff and then you kind of didn't, and you're getting pretty active again.
I'm busier than I want to be.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, I did some stuff for Josh. Like I say last week, I just finished tracking the other new single for Benoit that'll be out probably end of April, early May. I did that today. What else did I do? Jamie Fontaine, a country guy out of Halifax, did his last EP. Just tracked his new single this afternoon too. So it's busy.
And the studio is called
Studio 28.
So if you need tracks done, hit Chris up, because if you're prepared, I tell you, you get it done quick, you get it done well, and it's on time and on budget.
Hey, that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's cheap enough for sure.
Want to talk about something that happened to you last summer in the touring season.
Yeah.
You were playing in Ontario.
We were, Bothwell, Ontario.
Okay, you were playing a festival.
Yep.
And you went out to watch the band, and all of a sudden you were on the deck. You didn't know what happened.
True story. Yeah.
And you heard somebody say, I don't think your foot's supposed to go that way.
That's also a true story.
So tell the story.
We flew into Bothwell. We were headlining the big country fest up there. So we flew in at like 5 a.m. It was like an early flight. We get in, we'd drive 2 hours because, the manager didn't own a map. So it was good. So we rented a truck and we drove and we got there anyway. So we were in our trailer and just kind of hanging out. Anyway, this band came on. I forget the name of them now. Anyway, they were fantastic. Older guys playing this old Merle Haggard stuff. So me and Shane Goosey was playing fiddle. He's Dean Brody's fiddle player. Yep. So we went out to hear the band. Anyway, I turned to talk to Shane and I passed out because it was like 120 degrees out. So I just kind of went down and I came right back to again. So anyway, I said, geez, man, help me out, right? He's like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. Anyway, so they went to help me up and they looked and said, your foot's not supposed to do that. It was facing the opposite direction. So that was a good time. So they boys sat me up on the tailgate of the truck and readjusted it, ripped off 2 little pieces of stick off the fence and got gaffer tape from the sound man, made me a little splint, and 4 hours later we played the show.
And you didn't get to go, there's no EMT on site, correct?
0, yeah.
Okay, so that was a problem. You played the show.
Yep.
You did another show.
Yeah, so we went to the hospital, the ER, afterwards. There was like 94 people or something in the ER. They were like, we can see you Tuesday. This was Friday.
Might just wait till I get
Right.
home.
So we flew back in on Saturday, but Sherry, my wife, said to me that if you go to the hospital, you're going to have surgery. You're not going to make your gig Sunday night. So we had a solo festival at Nashwauk in Fredericton.
Right.
So I said, well, I better hold off on that. So we ended up driving up to Fredericton and playing the Sold Out Festival up there on the Sunday night. Then we came back, and I think Tuesday she took me to the Cobequid, and they rebroke it and readjusted it and what have you, and here we are. That was August 5th, I think, 4th or 5th.
Right.
So here we are.
So we're in almost April. I mean, and you're still hobbling around a bit. There's still a bit of pain and whatever, right?
Yeah, I'm not 25 anymore, but
I hear
it
you, man.
takes a while. It takes a while to heal.
But this is why you play practice 2 kick drums, because it was your left foot.
It was my hi-hat foot.
Right.
Fortunately for me. But,
right.
You know, but musician's the only job you can have that even if you break something, you still got to go to work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Guitar players get off easy.
Well, the boys said to me when I was on the ground, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to play." You know what I mean? So that's all you can do, right?
So talk a little bit about, we've talked about this before in the other podcast, but the country, I guess, scene around here, and this show is predominantly for Nashville. Like, there's a lot of people for Nashville that watch it, but we'll get to that in a second. But up here in Canada in general, what's the country sort of vibe around here?
Oh, West is not bad. Where Chad and those guys are.
Yeah.
Like I said, Ben Bradley and those guys that are out that way too. Ben was with Brett Kissel for years and whatever. Those guys were doing good, making a good living at it out there. But Quebec, down our way, there's not really anything. You got to pretty well have a day job, you know, or move
What
to
do you think
Nashville.
that is, though? Is it just because of the fact that it's not out west? Like,
I don't know. In the 90s, we made a living. Like we were 51 weeks a year. We were booked every place. There was multiple bars everywhere, and we played for a living. We would bring our gear home, and we'd pack it up. We'd have a guy come pick it up, drop it off at the next venue.
Yeah.
We had all our own PA, the whole deal. And then it just kind of, they took the smoking out of the bars, and then the VLTs were in there, and it just sucked the life out of everything. So, yeah, there's not much around here unless you want to play for, you know, food stamps or something, right? You know?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much, you know, and the whole scene down here is kind of like that. So you've been to Nashville a bunch of times. You know some people that are down.
I know a lot of people down there. Yeah.
So one of the things that we did a post a couple weeks ago, and it was precipitated by a guy that said, "Okay, I played a show. The manager told me we're not going to do live music after your show tonight." And his whole thing was the tip jar. Got on the whole topic of tip jar in Nashville and how it works. And everybody I talked to Rich Redmond.
Yeah.
He moved from Texas. He had to play for tip jar. Difference down there versus up here, or maybe in Canada, about how one gets paid when they play, because there is a difference.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Nobody wants to tip the band up here. That's the thing.
Right.
Down there, that's what they predominantly live on tips. I got a friend from Bridgewater here, Chris Richards. He was with Clay Walker. He was with Thompson Square. He was with Tyler Farr. He was with everybody. Now he's playing predominantly Broadway for tips and making a very good living at it. Right. So they're doing 12-hour days sometimes down there, but they're doing like 3 different sets of shows.
Sure.
But you know what? They're making more than any of us are making in a day job up here, right? So they're making a living playing.
Well, it's funny, Reed, because this particular post that just had such a tips. It's like begging. It's like busking. Well, it kind of is, but by the same token, a job's like that, really.
Yeah,
is it not?
Yeah. You're just busking for your boss or whatever, right? You know,
maybe it's get some benefits or
you
whatever.
never know. Yeah, something like that. You know.
So, you know, one of the things that I guess around here, and when I say around here, we're in Nova Scotia and we're in Atlantic, Canada. The country family, I guess, if you will, it's shrunk, right? It's not as big as it used to be.
Way shrunk, yeah.
Right. So there used to be venues. There used to be.
We had a circuit. It was called the A Circuit, and we would play like Little Nashville. We play the rodeo. We play the Mill and Truro. We do the Penny on the Park. There were so many bars. The Corral in Sackville. There was just you'd go bar to bar to bar to bar, and you play your circuit, and then you start back to the first one again. And the good bands would be booked for the year. You go in and get your bookings. You knew in November where you were playing next November.
Yeah.
Like you pretty well got your bookings for the year, right? Doesn't anymore.
Well, I mean I don't think any genre anything is like that now.
No.
Right?
No,
it's just
really not.
one of the things that you talked about, and I mean, I don't know exactly how it will work in a place like Nashville, but I talked to some people in other markets in the States. On the one hand, they go smoking bylaw, you got to do it, it's health, but it really, what happened here was it was just thrown together, thrown in. They knew it was coming, it was on, it was off, there were smoking rooms. That really affected the way things are done around here.
Well, I remember the smoking rooms came in. Everybody was in the smoking room behind the glass, and we were on the stage in the non-smoking area. You were playing for nobody, and you couldn't even see anybody in the smoking room because it was just like, you know what I mean? It was just like smoke.
I totally remember.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, the thing that was perplexing was they spent all this money, and it was the cigarette companies that did it.
Right.
And then 10 months later,
that was it.
They were done.
Smoking. Yeah.
Ass backwards government stuff. What do you do?
Exactly.
So Who are some of the, I guess we'll call them, you mentioned Clint, but if somebody was to come from Nashville up here to kind of get an idea that, I want to go see some good country guys, good country girls, who might some of them be?
Oh, there's not a whole lot of country really around here right now. I mean, there's,
So if you can fog up a mirror, go see
right, pretty much, yeah. I mean, you got the young guys in Farewell Town. I guess they got a different name now, but you got those guys playing, and you got some of those kind of bands now. But that's the younger generation.
Right.
But old dudes like me, there's not a whole lot. I mean, we're making as much money down working in our own studios as we are.
However, you say old guy, you're not that old.
Well,
we're not. We are not that old.
Well,
but we were the young guys.
Right.
You were probably like in the rock genre. I remember, the Jackie Smiths and those guys, they were at it for 10, 12 years longer before I even thought about it.
Yeah.
So you went through that cycle. Did you go through that where the old guys were like, oh, you're not the country guy, you like the new stuff?
My nickname on the road was Elroy the Kid, because I looked like Elroy from the Jets with my hair.
Yeah.
And I was the kid.
Yeah.
I was literally 18, 19 on the road with Boot Hill and with all these bands. So Elroy the Kid was always, I still have that nickname today, right? So that's how I got that, just from being the kid in the band, right? But I'd play, I remember, so Bob Gerard is a good friend of mine. Bob played with everybody.
See the fellow that I met that night at your boys?
Yes, exactly. So Bob played with everybody over the years, Charlie Pride, everybody.
Yeah.
But Bob was a school bus driver. He was my school bus driver in high school. So I remember subbing in, playing the Colby Tavern with those guys on Thursday night, and Bob would pick me up Friday morning on the school bus, right? Good gig last night, Dad. I call him Dad. Good gig last night, Dad. Yeah, you too, son. Then I go to math class or whatever, right? So that's kind of how young I was when I got into doing it. But there's none of that anymore, which kind of sucks for the new generation, right?
So I interviewed Jordy Brown. So Jordy is Jughead Brown, that plays with Titan. That's his son, and he got the gig in Foreigner to do the vocals for the Canadian Lake. And one of the questions that I asked him, because you and I've talked about this before, is parents are kind of, I want to push my kid through in the music thing, and they think there's a little bit of talent. And I asked Jordy straight up, like, what did your dad do? And he goes, well, my dad just asked me if I wanted to go. He didn't force me. And are you seeing any of that now these days? Where I never had parents that cared about music.
Yeah, see, my parents were musicians, so it's just my brother. They were all musicians, but it's like the hockey parents, right? It's like everybody's got a Sidney Crosby kind of thing, right? So for those of you that don't know, Sidney Crosby's a Canadian guy from just up the street here, but plays with the Pittsburgh
He regularly goes into Nashville and scores lots of goals.
Exactly. Yeah, he may score one or two goals the odd time, right?
Yeah.
But everybody's kind of like a hockey parent. That was, oh, my daughter or my son, you got to hear them sing, right? 9 times out of 10, they're Legion singers kind of thing, and then you get one that will just absolutely blow you away. And oh my God!
And there's few and far. And one of the things that I'm finding now that when I can't remember who it was. I talked to somebody with this. Like the talent might be there, but the experience,
exactly.
The what do you call it? The
paying your dues part.
Paying your dues is not there, right? Like you haven't had to figure out how you get paid when a club owner wants to rip you off, or when you don't have food and you don't have your parents around,
or how much do you charge to go in and play for a weekend, right? Any of that kind of stuff, but. It's nobody really wants to talk money, which sucks. I'll always tell you a ballpark of what to charge if you ask me, because why not? You can't go, hey, that guy's a scumbag for going in and undercutting everybody if you don't tell them how much to charge, right?
That's fair.
And everybody's kind of like, shh, well, we're getting however much, right? Just kind of give them a ballpark of what they should be charging, right? But no, every once in a while you get somebody that just blows you away. There's a girl from around here named Amanda Riley. She's a country singer, and her voice would absolutely blow your head off. Yeah. She's unreal. And she was one that her mom or somebody came out to, Tommy Sardi was his name, and said, hey, can you get her up to sing? She got up and sang, and everybody went, wow, right? So you get those as well, right? Yeah. But, I always tell those people, go somewhere and do something, because you're not going to do it here.
Well, and I mean, it's funny because... we talked about the dues and we talked about all that, and I had I had a guy on one of the posts got so mad because it was a post that somebody else had shared. It was like, if you're not going to ask, be comfortable to ask money, you should probably think about doing something else. Right. And it wasn't stop, you suck. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, if you're afraid to, and this person came and said, I can't believe you're discouraging 17-year-old. No, that's not what I'm doing.
No, not at all.
Well, what I am doing is I'm saying, okay, if you're getting upset about people undercutting you or doing that, here's a way to stop it. You just nailed it. So,
like I say, jam sessions. That's what, know your worth. If you're going to charge somebody to play in a club, you know your worth.
Absolutely.
If you want to jam, go to Monty's or wherever. Go to the jam and get up and jam with everybody. Have a good time. Right?
100%.
That's the freebies.
I want to end with this because we got to end talking about country. Rob Edwards, he does a great job. So he's got talking about country. He's got talking about truck. He's got a Star Trek one. He does a great thing. He's at Buffalo, New York. One of the things that you always talk about, we always quote you, is just talking about getting the gigs, how you get the gigs, how you keep the gigs. You know, always say, be a good hang. And sometimes I mention that to people, and I'm like, no, I don't believe it. Just talk about that for a minute.
Be the guy you want to play in a band with. That's all I can. I don't have to say any more than that, right? Nobody. You can be the best player in the world. Nobody wants to spend the 23 hours they're not on stage with you in a bus or in a trailer, or nobody wants to hang around with you, right? It's if you're a good hang and you're an okay player, they're going to take you over the stellar guy that nobody can be around, right? And it's just the way it goes.
You're bang on. And I've actually talked to several people over the last bit that if I drop names here, it was an A-lister player that we will never deal with that guy again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's true. Hey, we did this quick on Talking About Country. Subscribe, tune in. Chris Pottie, Jason Benoit, the song's coming out the 4th. That's another artist. This is coming out the 28th.
Yeah.
I gotta get my dates straight. Again, go subscribe to the channel. Tell Rob he's doing a great job. Talk About Country.